Remark 4. One can gather from the preceding what to think of the dialectic directed against the beginning of the world and also its end, that dialectic which would prove the eternity of matter, that is, of the dialectic directed at becoming, against coming to be or passing away in general. Kant's antinomies regarding the finitude or the infinity of the world in space and time will be more closely considered below, under the concept of the quantitative infinity. This simple, common dialectic rests on fixing the opposition of being and nothing, that a beginning of the world or of anything is not possible is proven as follows. Nothing can begin, either insofar as something is, or insofar as it is not. For insofar as it is, it does not begin to be, and insofar as it is not, it also does not begin to be. If the world, or anything, had begun, it would have begun in nothing, but in nothing there is no beginning, or nothing is not a beginning. For a beginning implies a being, but nothing contains no being. Nothing is only nothing, in a ground, a cause, and so on. If this is how nothing is determined, there is contained an affirmation, being. For the same reason, too, something cannot cease to be, for then it would have to contain nothing, but being is only being, not the opposite of itself. It is clear that in this proof there is nothing brought against becoming, or beginning and ceasing to be, against this unity of being and nothing, except an assertorical denial and the ascription of truth to being and nothing taken in separation each from the other. Such a dialectic is, however, at least more consistent than ordinary reflective thought. This thought accepts as the whole truth that being and nothing are only in separation, yet allows on the other hand for a beginning and a ceasing to be that are equally accepted as true determinations. In these, however, it in fact assumes the inseparability of being and nothing. Once we presuppose that being and nothing are absolutely divorced, beginning or becoming, as we often hear said, is of course incomprehensible, for we make a presupposition which does away with beginning or becoming and yet again admits it. And this contradiction, which we create ourselves and make impossible to resolve, this is what is called the incomprehensible. The dialectic just cited is also the same as the understanding deploys against the concept of infinitesimal magnitude given by higher analysis. More will be said below about this concept. These magnitudes are so determined that they are vanishing, not before this vanishing, for they would then be finite magnitudes, not after it, for then they would be nothing. Against this pure thought, it is objected and endlessly repeated that these magnitudes are either something or nothing, that there is no intermediary state between being and nothing. State is here an inappropriate, barbaric expression. Assumed here is again the absolute separation of being and nothing. But we have shown against this that being and nothing are in fact the same, or to speak in the language cited, that there is nothing which is not an intermediary state between being and nothing. Mathematics owes its most brilliant successes to precisely that determination which the understanding rejects. This form of argumentation that falsely presupposes the absolute separation of being and nothing, and insists on it, should be called not dialectic but sophistry. For sophistry is an argumentation derived from a baseless presupposition rashly accepted without critique, but we call dialectic the higher rational movement in which these, being and nothing, apparently utterly separated, pass over into each other on their own, by virtue of what they are, and the presupposition sublates itself. It is the dialectic immanent nature of being and nothing themselves to manifest their unity, which is becoming, as their truth.